but he said sometimes you have to kill your darlings. And I was kind of like, nigga, what you talking about? You know what I mean? I don't know whether I can say nigga on this podcast.
No, you good.
But he said sometimes you gotta kill your darlings, and I asked him like what that means, and he was like, sometimes you gotta kill the things that are so precious to you in order to actually create something out of them that are bigger than you. And I think it's the same kind of concept. If you got your hand closed because you got this perfect idea for a perfect thing for a perfect person, but that's not how the world works. Sometimes you gotta let that go and just let it be, and then the universal law of giving will allow another thing to come into your space or allow that thing to grow. No
doubt. That's some good game, man. So what was your first placement, man? I remember back in the day, man, I'm gonna tell you, when I knew you were out of here, when you did that joint with Black Rob, man. And this was fresh off your album as well, man. And I said, oh man, Breyan out of here, man. You about to start doing some stuff. Y'all had the video, all that good stuff, man.
That's hilarious, man. Most people don't even know I did that song.
Oh man, I'm shedding some light.
So what's funny is, so most people don't know this, but my cousin was captain of the Hitman for Bad Boy for agencies. My cousin is the mad rapper.
Word. Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, I had been watching his motion for years. You know what I mean? But he kind of kept me at bay from a lot of the Bad Boy things that were taking place. So he for good reason. You know what I mean? But, but long story short, just before I even met Flo, my cousin called me and he was like, I need a 911 hook. I need it like right now. And it just so happened that at the time I was sitting in my little like home studio, and I said, well, I'll take a crack at it. You know what I mean? And that was like one of two times in my whole life that he ever hit me for something. So he said to tell me I sent it back to him in like about an hour and a half. And he kind of flipped out over it, which was unexpected to me. And it was dope, like he ended up getting into Black Rob. Black Rob cut it. I heard the song and I was just like, man, that's that was like my first actual real artist that I had done something with. And I'll tell you a funny part of that story though, which is the song comes out. I'm excited about it because it's my first kind of thing that's coming out. And then at the same time, I'm in the middle of foreclosure, so I'm moving up here. I meet Flo through the situation with Monty.
Word.
And Good Feeling is the song that we just finished working on. So I'm excited about working with Good Feeling. I'm about working with Flo because it's like this thing that's happening,
Yeah.
And my cousin calls me and says, yo, we're going to shoot the video for a celebration. So I'm like, all right, dope, So I'm like, yeah, let's go. So he gives me the dates. I'm excited. I start buying my little, things to get up there.
Yeah.
And as I'm on my way to the airport, Flo calls me. And Flo says, hey man, I'm on my way to LA right now. I think we got a big record. I think you need to come out.
Wow.
So I'm like, I just committed to doing this video, bro. And he's like, man, I really think you need to come. And I'm like, I would love to, but I can't. But I want to, but I can't. So long story short, I do this dance of blah, 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 blah. I end up going to the video shoot. Video shoot was cool. But the problem was that what I missed out on was Wild Ones. They went there, they worked on Wild Ones, and Wild Ones is probably still to date one of his biggest records, and I missed out on that because I was shooting Celebration.
Word.
Yeah.
And he was trying to give you a hint, man. Like, we finna go down there and get some.
Man, like, you should come. But it's all good. I mean, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, man. You had a lot more wins on the way, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly, man.
Word. So, All right, so you got a cousin, man, that's responsible for a lot of major stuff going on in the game. He just linked you up with your first, like, celebrity situation. You know what I'm saying? You got Flo-Rida on your line talking about come to L.A. At this point, you got to know, you know what I'm saying? Life has changed.
Yeah, a lot of major changes quick.
Now, you said you moved to Daytona during this time. Where were you coming from originally?
So I'm originally from Boston, but I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. That's where the majority of my young life and into some of my adult life up until about 2010. So I was in Fort Lauderdale all of that time, and then I ended up here in Daytona. And what's crazy is when I ended up here, I don't want to keep harping on the old situation, but I'm saying this because I know that people that watch or listen to this are in dire situations or in situations where they're kind of they feel trapped or they feel like they can't, make moves because they got things going on in their life. Mm-hmm. But I find that when things are going on in your life, that's kind of like making room for a bigger thing to happen if you do the right things during that time. You know what I mean?
Word.
But I said that to say, I was up here. I owned a townhouse in Fort Lauderdale. I foreclosed on that townhouse, and I was up here staying in my wife's parents' bedroom with me and my wife, and my 3 kids were in the bedroom next to us in their house up here in Daytona. And my goal when I got up here was man, I'm gonna go ahead and get a job. I'm gonna figure out my life, put this music stuff aside for a minute, which is exactly when this flow stuff started happening. So I had just moved from Fort Lauderdale up to Daytona, and the moment I moved up here, I had to start driving back down to Fort Lauderdale pretty much every week to go to the studio to work with Flo. So when I started going back and forth like that, imagine moving into your mother and father-in-law's house, telling them you're about to get a job to reset your whole thing so that y'all can get it together.
Yeah.
And then your next conversation is I'm gonna go down to Miami for next week and I'm gonna go work with Flo. I'm gonna do that for the next 6 months instead of making money. Man,
her dad there too. This is her dad and her mom, right?
Her dad and mom. So sometimes chasing your dream looks kind of wild. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, it's if you don't chase it, you'll never catch it.
I love that, man. Okay, so you get a call. I need this hook real quick. I need something specific. I need it just like this. And you turned around and you got it back really quick. So, and then you already, you know what I'm saying, in motion, getting ready, you're working with one of the hottest artists in the game at the time. And still, how did you have the wherewithal to know how to move that fast? Where did you get that work ethic from? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people get opportunities and don't recognize that opportunities. They move slow and then they miss that opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
That's true, bro. I'll tell you this, man. So first, just to make it clear, when I met you, that might have been 2006, 7 almost, maybe?
Yeah.
But by that time, I had been doing music since I was 12 years old. And in 2005, 2006, I was 25, 26 years old. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I had been really highly focused on making and creating things minus obligation for a really long time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was really dialed into every day putting in work, you know what I mean? But not work because somebody was saying, hey man, I need something from you, because I had something internal in me that was saying, I want to do something, So because I was that way, I was already wired that way to some degree, I kind of treated opportunities that way before opportunities looked like real situations, you know? Even when I was working with local dudes and, you know, I was just booking sessions to, you know, make $200 or, you know, $150 here and there, I would still treat it like, yo, this song's we about to put this song out and it's gonna go crazy. You know, even if it goes crazy in a 3-block radius, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always kind of try to take opportunities with that kind of mentality. So when that finally came around, I was already wired like that. So I was there. You asked me, I'm gonna try and get it back to you. I don't know whether I'm gonna make no money. I don't know whether it's gonna come out or not, but I'm gonna shoot my shot as best as I can. And thank God that happened to be one of the shots that actually worked, you know?
Word.
Yeah.
Man, you talk about how important the support of your wife has been in your career.
Yeah. So I'll tell you like this, bro, like support looks different, you know, for everybody. But I can say like this, you know, I had 3 small kids. And I had lost my job like 2007, right after my second daughter was born. And I just felt like, man, at that time I was hearing internally like, it's either now or never. Either you're gonna focus on this and you're gonna do this for real and you're gonna try and, you know, hustle your way towards it, or you're just gonna wither away and it'll be a story that you're telling people later on like, yo, I used to, you know what I mean? So around 2007, when I lost my job, which was, you know, a pretty good job, I was working for a bank. But when I did that, I just started booking sessions and working with Dre actually a lot. That's how that project that you were talking about that we're trying to figure out. That happened during that time. That's when we put that whole album together. That's when I worked on my whole album. At the same time, I was, you know, booking sessions with local dudes and, you know, trying to get one-offs on people and as much as I could. But during that time, my wife had to hold us down in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? Not only, you know, making sure that my kids were, you know, still focused on and cared for when I was, you know, 2 bedrooms down until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning every night, from like 6, 7 o'clock in the evening until, you know, early, the wee hours of the morning. She was holding that down the whole time. I mean, you know, she was definitely the type that, you know, said supportive things from time to time, but she wasn't so much a talker. She was more like, I'm gonna just grind. Like all 3 of my kids, my wife worked to her 8th or 9th month of pregnancy. You know, wow. Like, you know, she worked to make sure her side was covered so that my side could just be focused on, you know what I mean? And thank God she did, because, you know, that eventually paid off in a way where she didn't have to work. And that support came back to her, you know what I mean? But you know, majorly supportive, bro. You know, I think having, especially when you got responsibilities that you need to take care of, you need somebody that's gonna kind of hold that ball while you're juggling the other balls, you know? Word.
Big pause, man. Hey, I'm glad I asked you that because you brought it back full circle to where I wanted to get back to, man, because we had paused the story at Flo went to LA, they worked on Wild Ones, you know what I'm saying, but you're still in motion. So you moved to Daytona. You're in a situation, things are going weirdly. Dre is in the picture. So you got a team and you're moving. What happens next?
So actually, you know, at that time when I moved up here, Dre kind of wasn't really in the picture. I mean, we were just really good friends at that time. You know? Okay. So like, Dre was still in Fort Lauderdale. I was up here trying to figure it out. And then when I started moving back and forth with Flo, you know, Dre was kind of doing his own thing. He had his own life situations that were going on, but
Okay.
you know, we just kept in contact a lot, you know. So I was up here. That's when I started going back and forth with Flo. My initial deal that I did with Flo and his manager, Freezy or Lee Prince, which I've grown to love. You know what I mean? Like they've become like family to me. You know what I mean? But my first deal was with them. You know what I mean? So like I didn't really understand like record contracts in that degree. You know, I mean, like, we know a few things, but we don't. You know, I don't know contracts like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, I was basically, like I said, I was trying to figure it out. So I'm like, hey man, I'm around these dudes. We working on a regular basis. Like, what's up? Like, what we gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, I got kids. It's either I'm gonna go get a job or I'm not going. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta figure something out.
Yeah.
So long story short, eventually, Breezy offered me kind of like a let's say a production deal, not like a real publishing deal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, you know, we went back and forth for some months. I ended up kind of signing, but I kind of was signing with like a leeriness in the back of my head, you know, like I don't know whether I made the right move or not.
Yeah.
But as I started getting these cuts with Flo, they introduced me to Flo's publisher, who also was the one who was kind of like feeding him a lot of these like big records, you know?
Okay.
And through meeting him, I ended up kind of grandfathering my deal that I did with Flo and Freezy into a new publishing deal with his publisher. And I learned after that happened that the deal that they gave me was an amazing deal. You know what I mean? Because the deal that they gave me was a straight time deal. Mm-hmm. It wasn't based on like minimum delivery, you know, like some kind of crazy thing where like you're stuck in a deal for 15 years, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So long story short, I said that to say that like once I did this deal with this other publisher, which was APG and Mike Karen, I had all of these like Flo-Rida hits that were happening at the same time, and I didn't really take a big advance. It was a small advance. So by the time the money started coming in, I was fully in the black. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not only was I fully in the black, but my deal was straight time. So by the time things really started rolling, I was already about to be out of my deal and ready to sign a real pub deal. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I didn't know that was a good method.
Yeah.
It ended up being a great method.
Word. So you finished out that deal, or you got out of that deal?
I finished out the deal. I mean,
that's dope.
It was a great situation. Like when I ended up signing with APG and Mike, that opened up. Put it this way: in 2011, I had only worked with Black Rob, and then I had just started working with Flo. By 2013, bro, like I had worked with most of like my music heroes. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So that opened up, like for instance, my first placement, real placement, was Good Feeling with Flo.
Okay.
That ended up being like a worldwide smash. The next placement I had was Whistle, which went #1 on Billboard.
Yeah.
So that was like, you know, I was in the hands of the golden goose. So to me, it was like, well, let's go. You know what I mean? So all kinds of doors started opening, crazy sessions started opening up. And like I said, that same work mentality of like, hey man, if the opportunity's gonna come, I'm not gonna try and turn it down. I'm gonna take it. I might fail it. I failed a lot of them, but I'm gonna try. You know what I mean? I'm gonna try and, you know, shoot the best shot I can. And thank God a lot of those landed.
Word. That's what's up, man. So tell me this, man. What's the difference between a #1 and a regular hit record?
A lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I look at it like this. A hit record to those credits. And whoever's attached to the credits on those songs, they want in that room. So all publishers that are involved are seeking out whoever is in those credits. And man, you know, like the way that ended up happening was just such a, I'll say like this, bro. There's a hemisphere. Like if you think of like mountains, you can look at like Kilimanjaro, and then you can look at like, I don't know, some mountain in like Colorado. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's a big difference, you know. It's not only that, but even in money, you know what I mean? Like there's a very, very big difference. You know what I mean?
Word.
And also, well, I say like this though. What I've learned is that having a #1 record is amazing, right? Mm-hmm. But having a #7 is better.
Wow, that's interesting.
Why?
Okay.
So what I've seen historically, bro, is like a #1 song. Sometimes those songs live for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes, but a lot of times it's the hype of it that takes it really far. It's like that bright flash in the pan. You know what I mean? But I've found, at least for me personally, like when a song like is living between like 7, 6, 5, 7, 6, 5, that song stays on the charts for so long, bro. And longevity of it ends up kind of like making, even dwarfing sometimes what a #1 looks like.
Really? That's wild.
For sure.
That's wild. So would you say that when you go in to work on a record that you swinging for the fences? Are you trying to get a, you know what I'm saying?
You know, I'll be honest, man. I don't think that's a real thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think swinging for the fences is not saying like I'm trying to knock it out the park so I can get this like position on a chart. Like I'm looking like, is this the dopest thing that I can add value to this song, or is this the dopest song that can happen from this little box of music that's happening here? You know what I mean? Yeah. At the end of the day, like, you know, the world judges, you know, what's gonna be a hit and what's not gonna be a hit. So like, you can't determine that. I've said this on so many different occasions with different people, bro. But like, the songs that I've loved the most are songs that either still are on my hard drive or Dropbox, and either were minimally played or never played. And the songs that I was like, I kind of hate this song, those are the songs that have always been the biggest songs for me, bro. Wow. Always. Like, I didn't love Good Feeling, huge song. I didn't love what Whistle kind of like turned into, huge song. I kind of liked Timber, but Timber was the biggest song that I'll tell you this, I wrote Timber with Priscilla Renee, who was Money Long. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
saw that.
Okay.
But Priscilla Renee used to be a regular, you know, like a songwriter. And my first session with her, it was like an 8-hour session, and we heard the beat for Timber. And no joke, bro, like, it was almost like, you know how you watch those movies when people are making songs and they're like, you know, one person is like, in the melody you go, do-do-do-do-do-do. It's like, oh, that should say, I want you to come here. You know what I mean? Yeah. It looks completely fake. Timber legitimately happened like that. Like, I mean, the beat plays, she asked me like, yo, what should we do over this? And I kind of gave her like this version of like the Timber melody, and she just started singing like and as soon as she said that, she was like, it's going down, and I was like, I'm yelling Timber, you know what I mean? It happened in like 30 minutes, like no joke. And it happened so fast that we both were like, that's cool, let's pick another beat. So we spent the whole rest of that 7.5 hours of that session working on this other song, and we loved that song. Like the second song, we were like, yo, this is the one. When they walk in, they go crazy over this song. We played that song first when they walked in. They paid no attention to it. We played Timber, they went crazy over that song, and then we ended up working on. I ended up kind of like rewriting certain parts of Timber for like the following 3 months. But that just goes to show, bro. Like the ones that you're like, man, this is gonna be crazy because it's crazy in my head doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's gonna translate.
Wow. So, tell me this: would you say that your approach has changed from now to writing the record since from when you started to now? Yeah, majorly. I mean, I think also like, you know, the more you're around, not just successful people, but people who are really creative, equally creative or better, you know. You pick up little tips, you pick up little tricks and mentalities around writing or around producing that if you're smart, you put in your toolbox, you know what I mean? And when I started, I didn't have a toolbox, you know, it was kind of like big fish, small pond syndrome, you know what I mean? Like, you know, there were a lot of people that were making music. Not saying I was like the best, but at the time, I felt like I was kind of better at a lot of different things than a lot of people I was around. Yeah. Until I started really moving around in the music business, and I thought that I was kind of bringing something dope to the table, but like by the time I'm starting off with like 2 lines, they're already through with the hook. Wow. They're like adding chords, and another nigga's mixing it down, and like, nigga, I'm still sitting there like confused about what's happening in the room, you know? Yeah. So I feel like over the years, man, like, you know, train of thought and like understanding like what feels urgent, what feels, you know, I learned that my approach towards music, because I come from like a gospel or Christian rap, Christian R&B background. When I was writing, never really had teeth. You know what I mean? Like, you know, in music, you know, even when something's a ballad or a love song, it has to have teeth. It has to have something that feels like there's some grit, some edge, some you know, some bite to it that is more than just saying like sweet words or like sweet melodies. You know what I mean? You need stuff that feels sticky. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the things I've definitely picked up over the years is like, all right, that's a cool way to start the idea, but does it feel sticky? When I finish saying it back, does it feel like something I want to say repetitively? Do those chords feel like something I can listen to on a loop for the next 3 hours? You know what I mean? And I find that those kind of things that I've picked up over the years from being in this business caused me to start the process differently now. Word. Yeah. So tell me this: what would you say is the most expensive lesson you've learned in the music business? I'll tell you, the most expensive lesson I think that I learned was I opened a studio here in Daytona in 2019 because in my mind I had seen the process of making music happen in lots of buildings, you know. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I took for granted was infrastructure. You know, infrastructure in the sense of somebody who's focusing on the day-to-day tasks, somebody who's focused on filling the building with people that can create together. And long story short, I think that in my mind when I opened that studio, I was like, I'm gonna open a studio. I'm a, you know, pretty solid songwriter, producer. Like, you know, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3. You know, you just bring in a couple dudes. You know, tell them to play some chords. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you know, I kind of opened it with the mentality that it's gonna work because I've seen other people do it, and that ended up being a multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars lesson that I learned was that's not how it works. You know what I mean? And you do need
need somebody. You do need, if you're not that somebody, you need somebody who's going to be doing all of the things that I wasn't paying attention to make those hits happen in those buildings. So I think that's probably my most expensive lesson. That and IRS, my nigga, pay your taxes.
Pay them taxes. So,
Pay them taxes.
what would you say are all those things that somebody's doing outside to make sure those happen?
So, I think when people think about the music business, they think about music. You know what I mean? Think about it's music, it's all music, but the music business is called the music business because it's the business of music.
Right.
And in business requires infrastructure. Business requires somebody who's paying attention to the building. Business requires somebody who's paying attention to the product. Business requires somebody who's wrangling and bringing in new talent to keep, things feeling spicy and fresh. Business requires all of the little nuances that, when you walk into a Subway, you only see, the two people that are behind the counter. You see one dude who's maybe, making drinks or doing cashier, and then one person who might be making subs and they might be swapping. But that's not the whole business of Subway. There's somebody who's the GM of that Subway, and then there's somebody who's above them that's paying attention and making sure that, hey man, we need ham, we need turkey, we need cheese, we need bread, we need lettuce. There's somebody who's making sure that things are stocked. That's the business of music, and that's the part that I think that I never paid attention to. I just paid attention to being part of the cog in the wheel of making sure that, hey, this is already laid out. I thought, okay, if you set up a room, you put some equipment in there, and you put some couches in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then eventually you'll be good, but that's not really how that works. Like, there's a whole other side of that business that causes the creative part to work.
Wow. So this is not a DIY industry.
It's typically not a DIY industry. There's certain things that you can make look good, you know what I mean, because they're in your wheelhouse. But one thing I've learned is that you don't and you can't do everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not only can't you be responsible for everything, but you're not good at everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's funny, the day and age that we're in music, man. It's like I can sit in my room and minus any of this stuff back here, I could on my phone make a beat. I could record it in BandLab. I can put like a little mix on it. I can go to a DSP and say like, hey man, I want to put this on Spotify, blah blah blah, and I can get the song out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
That can happen now, but the reality of it is that music wasn't created to be like that. Music is a team sport. You know what I mean? Music is meant. When you look at a band, there's a piano player, there's a drummer, there's a guitar player, there's a person who's singing, there's backgrounds.
Facts.
All of those things come together to create the harmony that make people say, I want to listen and pay attention to this. And that's one of the things that I feel like is important. It's like it takes a team. It takes people playing their part together to make that thing become something that's worth listening to and watching.
That's what's up, man. So what's your favorite song that you've written so far?
My favorite songs that I've written, nobody's heard.
Really?
If we go through my Dropbox, I can play you songs that are my favorite songs. My favorite songs that have come out are the ones that have paid me the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the songs that have come out in the world that like I really love, like I said, those songs are not the ones that have been hits. Like I really love. I did this record with Damian Marley and Stephen Marley called Medication.
Mm-hmm.
That they ended up doing a remix and they had Ty Dolla on there, Wiz, and all these. It was a weed song. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that was like the song that I kind of liked the most that has kind of come out, but it didn't do what I hoped songs
Yeah.
But if I'm honest, like the real answer to that question is whatever the last thing is that I wrote that I liked. That's my favorite thing, because that might change right after I finish doing this podcast. I might write a song, and that'll be my new favorite song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. So who are some of your biggest inspirations musically?
You know, it's different, man. Like people ask me like who my favorite artists are and stuff like that, and like I guess to some degree I have some favorites. I loved Timberland when I was coming up. Like I definitely wanted to be like a Tim producer. I grew to love the Neptunes as producers, and Pharrell as like, you know, writer and creator. But I'm more of a fan of like certain songs. You know what I mean? I'm more a fan like that. You know, and I would say my biggest inspirations, to be honest, bro, is like my pops. You know, not necessarily because he's crazy musically inclined, but you know, I grew up watching my dad, and my dad was like if I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And it's gonna happen. I'm gonna put all the effort in. I'm gonna sacrifice. You know, he was always that kind of person. So watching that was inspiring to me to be that way. It just so happened that I adopted that into the music world, but that was really my biggest inspiration, to be honest. I am notoriously like not a big listener of like things that come out in the world, because I live constantly in a creative space. I live based upon sitting in front of this computer and making things. So that's my other biggest inspiration, is just being creative.
No doubt. No doubt, man. Are there any artists or anybody that you haven't worked with that you want to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I never got a cut with Adele. That's kind of like a thing that's, you know, she's kind of like not really active like that anymore. But like, I've always loved Adele. I've always like loved that kind of vibe of music. I like Drake a lot, despite the beef. You know, we can go down that rabbit hole if you want to at some point. But I've always loved kind of like his like the wordplay and, you know, kind of like the quotables. Like I love that kind of space. So like that's definitely somebody who I'd still like to work with. I haven't worked with Kendrick. I haven't done a whole lot of like rap world stuff. You know what I mean? My biggest influence has been in like pop music for the most part.
Yeah.
So a lot of that world I really like. Maybe not so much the like newer stuff, because I just, you know, maybe I'm a little too old to be able to translate that now. But I appreciate it. You know, I just don't know that I have anything of value to add to it. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, put it this way, bro. Like, I love all kind of music, bro. Like, I make country music, I make pop music, I make rap music, I make, you know, dembow. You know what I mean? So like, you know, anybody who lives in that space that I haven't worked with so far, I feel like I have a record or two that I can work with them on. So everybody.
That's what's up. You just talked about your dad being a person of integrity. What are the traits, and you've taken that on yourself, what are some other traits that you say have caused you to have longevity in this game?
I think having thick skin. Thick skin is very, very
That's a big one.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, you can't be too emotional, you know, with in business in general, but also like, you know, sometimes maybe people don't consider the fact that anytime you're working in a creative space as a job or as business, you're subject to people's showing them. You know what I mean? So like, I would easily say that like, for out of 1,000 songs, I might place one.
Dang.
But that doesn't mean that I only sent out one song. That means I sent out 999 other songs that people said they didn't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think Thick Skin #1 is like the biggest, you know? I think that that it's important for you to want and to allow yourself to be humbled when there are others that are providing something that is better than what you think is dope. You know what I mean? I've been in a lot of rooms where, you know, I thought I had the hook, you know, or I thought I had the beat, you know, or, you know what I mean? But there was somebody else that maybe had a better melody or a better line or better drums or better chords.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to be humble enough to allow them to shine and you take a back seat allows the entire song or project to move forward. You know what I mean? So I think ego is one of those things that has to kind of like take a back seat sometimes, you know? So I think that's another one. I think following up and making sure that like, you know, you are keeping a link with people is maybe the first, you know what I mean? Because like we meet people all the time and you know, maximizing those relationships is not something that everybody's good at. But for sure in the music business, bro, like when you meet somebody, keeping in touch with them, like, yo, hey man, you know, we met last month, 2 months ago. I'm not sending you music. I'm just hitting you, checking on you, bro. Like, what's going on with your peoples? You know what I mean? Like, those kind of things go a long way, you know. People, I heard this quote one time that said that people don't remember what you did for them. They remember how you made them feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find that that's true, you know, like for a lot of years on Thanksgiving, Christmas, any like major holiday, and this was kind of like before I had an iPhone where you could send out, you know, 25 dudes on a group message. I would individually be sitting there on Christmas Day sending out, you know, texts to all of the people that I knew in the music business to say like, hey man, Merry Christmas, you know, hope your family's good. Happy Thanksgiving, hope your family's good, blah, 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 you know. But that just kind of keeps you in their mind for forward opportunities and vice versa, you know?
Facts.
So I think those are three things that are important. And sorry, the fourth thing for sure is, nigga, whether you feel like it or whether you don't feel like it, nigga, you get up and you make things.
Yeah.
The only way things ever get made is if you make them. If you don't make them, they'll never get heard. If you never send them, they'll never get heard. So if you're not making it and you're not sending it, then you're just talking.
That's good. That's good. So where would somebody who wants to become a hit maker, a great songwriter, what's the first thing they should get up and do right now? If they haven't done anything before.
If they've never done anything before, first thing is first is you need to sit down and you need to start making things. You know, I mean, you know, the only way that you get good at something is a nigga don't just wake up and just shoot a three-pointer.
Right.
I mean, like, you know, you got to start off. You might be doing layups first. You know, you might be playing by yourself at first, and then it might turn into horse, and then horse might turn into 21. 21 might turn into a 2-on-2, and then eventually you end up at a 5-on-5.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But like the first thing is first is you got to start. You got to start the process, and first the process is how do I get good? Which is the only way you get good is by doing it repetitively, doing it constantly on a regular basis, whether somebody is saying get up and do it or not. And that's what starts to make you good. Then what way you get better is you start introducing what you are technically good at to other people who are good, because then they're going to show you how good you actually are. And the more you start working with them, the more that one-on-one might turn into a same thing, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and then eventually the more you've been exposed to great songwriting, great producing, the more you'll pick up and the more rooms you'll end up in. But first things first is you gotta start past conversation. You gotta get your ass in a seat or sit on a couch or wherever that is, and you gotta start making things. And I find that, people make so many excuses, bro. Like, I talk to people all the time and they're like, yeah, man, I would love to do music, but like, I just can't find no beats or, to be a producer, but I ain't got no artists and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nigga, that's just excuses. That's bullshit, At the end of the day, like, you can go on YouTube, you can download your favorite song, you can put that song in a stem splitter, get the acapella, and you can produce a beat to your favorite song.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't put that song out, but you can send that song around, you can post it on your Instagram, you know what I mean? Like, you can start putting what you think you're good at out in the world to be judged. But all the excuse shit is like, that's the biggest hurdle to me for everybody. It's like, the excuses, like, I can't because. Mm-hmm. No, you can if.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. How do you avoid people that make excuses?
How do I avoid people that make excuses?
Yeah, how do you avoid bullshitters?
Just as easily as you just said it. I steer clear.
Yeah.
Listen, one thing I have learned is that, people say everything without trying to say it if you're paying attention, They say it in their body language. They say it in, little blurbs that they might make around their, like, big speech of, one day I'm going on and blah, 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 blah. And in that same breath, they'll be like, boy, if I, and so-and-so wouldn't let me, and, you know what I mean? It's yeah, nigga, but that all sounds good, but there's still lots and lots that you can do on your own.
Yeah.
And, bullshitters to me, I spend a lot of time talking about what they can't accomplish or they can't do or why they can't or what rooms they can't get in, but what rooms can you get in? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe you can't get in the room with Drake today, but you might be able to get in the room with Drake Johnson, who lives down the street.
Yeah.
You
Facts.
know what I'm saying?
Facts.
And y'all can put out a song today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I hear that kind of speech or I feel that kind of energy, I avoid immediately.
No doubt. All right, going back, you said we could go down that rabbit hole, man. What's the effect that the beef has had on the music industry, do you think? And tell me what you think about the whole situation, though. You know what I'm saying? How it went down.
I'll be honest, bro. Like, first off, I think that for rap, I think beef is necessary. You know what I mean? I think beef, it's just like when you're in middle school and, like, you hear, like, yo, I heard Tommy wants to fight Billy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that starts to circulate around the school, and then by the end of the day, it's 50 niggas outside because they heard so-and-so was gonna fight so-and-so. It creates that, like, buzz, that excitement, you know what I mean? So I feel like in rap, specifically, that beef every now and then is necessary, as long as it don't turn into Biggie and Tupac where niggas is dying for no reason.
Right.
I think rap beef is good, and then, rap is also such a competitive sport. It's like, it's kind of like watching boxers. Like, I wanted to see Evander fight Holyfield fight Tyson. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to see that clash.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same in rap. You want to see the clashes from time to time because I think that it causes the buzz, that synergy, that feeling of, like, I'm gonna pick a side, it's red or blue, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I'm honest, I'm a Drake fan. I'm also a Kendrick fan, but not as much as a Drake fan. Mm-hmm. So I was a little sad that that Kendrick definitely kind of murdered that nigga.
Oh man, he pieced him up, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think Drake definitely had a few. You know, he had a few that felt cool, but like, you know, Kendrick's a Gemini. I'm a Gemini. Like, you know, a Gemini, you don't wanna wake that beast. You know what I mean? Like, a nigga might chop your head off. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of like, that's just the internal instinct. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, when I listened to like Meet the Grams, I knew then I was like, oh no, it's a rap. You know what I mean?
It's finna get ugly.
But I mean, you know, it played out how it played out. I mean, obviously some of the stuff that came as a result of it, with like the lawsuits and all that kind of crazy stuff, that was another side of the beat that, you know, I think we could have did without. But overall, I think it was good. You know what I mean? I think it was good to see niggas face off. It felt like, you know, it gave me some of that 90s energy for a minute. You know, gave me some of the Nas and Jay, you know, energy for a minute. You know, so I can appreciate it.
Yeah. Tell me what you think about the whole AI situation and where you think music is heading with that.
I think AI in general is kind of scary. You know what I mean? I think it's scary. It's a scary new addition to the world. You know, but in music, so I posted a video, you know, a few weeks ago when I was in LA because I had a situation where, you know, anybody who's actually in music knows that, like, kind of the process of getting your songs to artists and getting them out to the world, you got to send them to A&Rs, you got to send them to artists, sometimes you're sending them to engineers, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to get ears on them, you know?
Yeah.
And what I found was, like, some of the songs that I had sent around had been placed in Suno. And, you know, some of those songs, but, you know, the way some people didn't understand what I was trying to say, but, like, when you take a song and you put it in Suno, you can rewrite the song using the same melodies. You can change the music, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so that it feels sort of like a demo, but it feels like a new song.
Yeah.
Or even a better version sometimes of your original song. So my beef was not so much with the AI side of it, it was more so with how niggas were handling the music that I was sending out. But I don't have a big beef with Suno and, like, with the AI music part. I think that the, like, full prompt music, I'm not a fan of that. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like, I feel like creating music means that you're creating music. I could go into a room of writers and producers and say, like, hey man, I want to write a song about, you know, birds sitting on the edge of a tree singing about Bob Marley, and they could write a song about that.
Right.
At that point, I didn't really make that song. That's those people who made that song. You know what I mean? It was kind of like a concept I had in my head. So to me, that's not really creating music. But as far as the AI component of it, like, we've been using AI for ages, bro. I mean, auto-tune is technically AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Auto-tune is a built-in part of music. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anybody who's not using auto-tune in sessions. You know what I mean? Niggas been on Splice for the last 6-7 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, technically you can call that AI too. You know what I mean? Like, if I can just load up my song and then I can just, like, grab loops and just slide those loops in, same E tempo map, the whole thing. Technically, that's kind of like AI vibes, you know?
Right.
So I'm not against it. I mean, I think if you're using it as a tool to create, I think it's dope. If you're just prompting and you're putting those songs out, like a lot of the slop that's, like, on IG right now, I'm not a big fan of that, but I'm not against the AI at all.
Word. Would you ever use it?
I do use it.
Oh, how do you use it?
So instance, somebody that I'm working with right now, we are kind of like putting together a project that's like kind of David Guetta-esque or like Marshmello-esque, you know, basically where you write, produce songs, and then you get, you know, major artists that are already out in the world to cut these songs, and you put that together as like a full project. So long story short, a lot of those songs I've written with, you know, some, you know, people that I know, but some of them might be female, you know, female-driven songs. And, you know, I'm a dude and I got a good voice, but I definitely ain't, I ain't singing like Rihanna. You know?
Right.
So, what I use it for a lot is I'll take my acapella and I'll put it in Suno and I'll get a demo version of my vocal as a female. And I'll take that demo vocal and put it back into my session to replace my vocals.
Okay.
And that kind of creates like, you know, you get like the top of the line pop singer or R&B singer on your song without necessarily getting somebody to come sing it before you can get the placement, you know? So I do it that, I use it that way. Sometimes, like I'll play chords or I'll make, you know, like make a bass or something like that, and it feels cool, but I want like, you know, I want it to feel live, or I might want it to feel the chords to feel fuller, and you know, so I'll put it in Suno and I'll take my version, the version that it gives me of my chords back, and I'll put that back in the session. So stuff like that, you know what I mean? But I'm not against that at all. I think that that's still a part of creating, you know. I mean, that's, you know, that's the same as like calling Joe Schmo and be like, hey man, I suck at playing chords, but these are the chords that go in the song. Make these sound pretty, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man. But yo, man, I know that you said that you had some work you had scheduled for the day, man. You had some sessions going, man. Before we wrap it up, man, is there any words of motivation that you would like to get out to people that are, you know, getting involved and want to have a successful career in the music business?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, I would say, you know, you're probably better than you think that you are. You know, I find that the people that are really cocky are typically the ones who are not that good. And the people who are timid and afraid to play things are typically really good. You know what I mean? So for people who are timid or feel afraid to let their music be heard or let their voice be heard or let their production be heard or whatever that is, you know, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, you know? So if you got a shot, shoot your shot. You know, if nobody's cutting your song, put the song out on your own. You know what I mean? If, you know, somebody sent you a number and was like, yo, call this dude, and you're afraid to call him, call him. You know what I mean? Like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, one thing I've learned is that if you don't do it, it won't get done. You know, there's no knight in shining armor that's gonna come and save the day, and you know, there's nobody who's sitting outside your house listening through the window saying like, hey man, I hear this thing that you're working on. There's nobody doing it, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, that's not gonna happen. You know? You know, if you take a little bit of your anxiety and you set it aside and you push, you'd be surprised by what kind of response that you'll get, you know? And the other thing I would say, man, is focus. You know? It's easy, especially in this world, man, to like, in this current world, to talk and then to slide into FOMO and doom scrolling. But, you know, the most powerful light is when they take from the wide beam and they pinpoint. that pinpointed light, that's when a light is at its most when it's at its strongest and its most purest form. And that only comes from focus. You understand what I'm saying? So if you take all of the bullshit that you allow life to pull you away from everything, and you dial that down to a very hyper-focused, attention-only emphasis, you've got a way better shot at making that light go as far as it can go. And that's all we are. We are light.
I love that, man. I love that, man. I have a saying, man, that I tell my kids, man, that intense focus produces extreme results, man.
Amen.
You know?
Amen.
So I can't agree with you more, man. Hey, man, I appreciate you sitting down and taking time with us, man, and talking to us, man, and giving us game, man. And let's do it again soon, man.
I'm right here, bro. Let me know when.
For sure. For sure. Once again, man, Breyan Isaac, much respect due.